Majora's Mask Remodeled.
Hello my friends, on tonight's episode of Majora's Mask Remodeled, we redesign the Mask of Truth! And of course, to do this, we will also be taking inspiration from all sorts of different cultures. Let the painting begin! Yep, the good old Mask of Truth. Certainly one of the better designed masks in Zelda, but of course our mission in this series is to redesign every mask in Majora's Mask. So that includes the ones that already look pretty cool to begin with. Alrighty, so as you may have noticed, the most prominent feature of the Mask of Truth is its big ol' eye. So when trying to come up with designs for this particular mask, I was looking through my books and trying to find eye-like imagery. One type of image that I found was a type of cape known as hanif, which is made by the Amazigh, aka Berber people. And this specific example comes from Morocco. At the center of this cloak is a red area, which represents a powerful and protective hypnotic eye. It is used in order to ward off what is known as the evil eye. The evil eye is a concept that appears in both North Africa and the Middle East. Essentially, the evil eye is a harmful energy that comes from someone's jealous gaze. Adding to the Hanif's protective powers are geometric shapes on the eye's border. Often these will be grouped by 5, adding a hand-like quality to this symbol of defense. On the first sketch, I was basically just replicating the original design of the Hanif cape. On the second sketch, I added a bit more flair with some subtle nods to the Mask of Truth. And the third design, of course, has more obvious references to the Mask of Truth. While I was refreshing my knowledge on the Hanif cape, I came across something I hadn't learned about before. It's an artwork known as Hamza, and it goes by many other names as well. This symbol is used by some Muslims, Christians, and Jewish people. Similar in purpose to the Hanif capes, these hand-like amulets serve to protect against the evil eye. And since this symbol is shared by multiple cultures, in modern times the Hamza has been used as a symbol of peace in the Middle East. I did 2 sketches based on the Hamza. One is more floral, and the other is more geometric. Speaking of cultural connections, I did 2 drawings based on Berber jewelry from Morocco. Though these were made for the Berber people, they were created by Morocco's Jewish population. These types of jewelry harness the powers of Baraka. And no, I don't mean Baraka from Mortal Kombat. I'm talking about Baraka, the positive healing energy that can be used to protect against evil. You may be wondering why this jewelry was made exclusively by the Jewish population. Well, this next bit might sound a bit odd, but according to the book A History of Art in Africa, many Berbers believed that creating magical jewelry was very dangerous. They also believed that Jewish patriarchs were powerful magicians, and so they thought that the Jewish people had the abilities needed to manipulate Baraka through silversmithing. Now, the book doesn't really go into detail about whether these beliefs are still popular amongst the Berber today. But on the University of Arizona's website, you can see an image of a modern Berber man making such jewelry. So I believe we can probably extrapolate that it is a less common belief today. Now, I still have a lot to learn about the Jewish population in Africa, so perhaps we will explore their culture more in a future episode. But in the meantime, let's move on to the next sketch. Now, in most of these sketches, I have emphasized the eye, but in this sketch, I emphasize the smile, which is another prominent feature of the Mask of Truth. Now, the eye, once again, is using the Hamza design, but the smile is inspired by the Mwizi wa So'o mask from the Hemba people. The smile of the So'o is meant to be terrifying. Ever heard of a werewolf? Well, this is a were-chimpanzee. The So-O is an allegorical figure of death, and if you were to dance with the So-O, you would gain mastery over the fear of death. Which I suppose that means these girls right here don't fear Jack? While looking at the one-eyed Mask of Truth, I couldn't help but be reminded of the goofy one-eyed umbrella that I've seen in multiple anime and video games. It's known as Kasa Obaki. It's one of the Japanese demons known as yokai. There's actually multiple one-eyed yokai in Japanese mythology. One of them is Hitotsume Kozu, a mischievous one-eyed goblin. And another one is Shirime, a man with an eye in his anus. I assure you, I did not make that up. Anyway, the Kasa Obaki used to be an ordinary umbrella, but due to mistreatment and disuse, it became a spirit. It's a mostly harmless yokai, and it just occasionally spooks people. The first sketch I did of this is rather standard looking, whereas the second sketch was a combination of both the yokai and the Hanif eye that I've been using. Alrighty, getting back to Africa, I did some sketches based on the Benin bronzes from Nigeria. Can't remember the exact reason why. I think I was just wanting to see what these Benin bronzes would look like if they had one eye. The sketch here that probably stands out the most is the one that has lizards in place of where the eyes should be. That was based on a royal osun, spirit head. The reptiles that are emerging from the ears, nose, and eyes of this sculpture are representative of spiritual transformation. If one sees a snake coming out of one's facial orifice, it is representative of a curse. Though perhaps I don't need to explain that a snake coming out of your orifices is a bad thing. The next sketch I did is based on the Dwo mask from the Bois people. Dwo embodies the life-giving powers of nature. We've talked about Dwo in a previous episode, and I plan to talk about him in more detail in a future episode. But for now, I'll just explain the reason why I utilized his visual language is because the conal face of Dwo does have a sort of eye-like quality to it. That same line of thought is what led me to draw inspiration from the masks of the Basari people, who live on the border of Senegal and Guinea. This Basari mask is known as Lukwuta. It is associated with a complex age grade system. When Basari boys are born, instead of being given a proper name, they are named by the order of their birth. So all firstborn sons are called Tayara, the second son Tama, and so on and so on. To earn a unique name, the boy must go through initiation. At the age of 15, a Basari boy is separated from his family. He is to be symbolically killed and reborn during the initiation, via the will of a spirit known as Nda. Through a collective initiation, the boys enter the first stage of adulthood. Depending on the village, there are 3 or more adult stages. Each stage of the different adult ranks lasts 6 years. One of the initiation's most dramatic challenges is to face the Lukwuta masks in battle. This is not just a ceremonial fight. Blood will sometimes be shed during these encounters. The novice is equipped with a wooden saber for attack and holds a bow for use as a defensive shield. He must battle 2 masqueraders who are equipped with flexible wooden whips for weapons and a long stick for defense. The battle ends when the opponent falls or the attacks reach their target. The novices must demonstrate their courage against the powerful spirit by forcing the mask to withdraw. The battles are somewhat scripted because the masks have been instructed to retreat, but at times the masks can be unpredictable and punish the novices. Sometime after the battle has concluded, the masks will dramatically reveal their human faces to the initiates. Eventually, initiations end, and the Basari men are then allowed to choose a unique name for themselves. From that day on, it is technically forbidden to call the initiate by his childhood name. But family and friends will still sometimes use his old name, because after all, if you know someone by a certain name for so many years, it's tough to get used to a new name. More importantly, the initiate is now considered an adult. Though arguably the even more important impact of the ceremonies is how it teaches the uninitiated the idea of transformation itself. To better explain the Basari's idea of transformation, we will need to continue this conversation in a future video, because there is plenty more to talk about. I did 3 sketches based on the Basari, one of which I turned into a hexagon. Why? Well, that'll be my little artist's secret. The next set of sketches I did is based on the Akan's Adinkra symbols. The eye-like symbol is used to represent the universe and God's omnipresence. The more vertical symbol stands for truth. And there are many other Adinkra symbols that embody other Akan values. If you want to learn more about Adinkra symbols, you can check out one of my previous videos. One last eye symbol that I considered for this painting is known as the Wedget Eye, more commonly known as the Eye of Horus and the Eye of Ra. It is not only one of Africa's most popular eye symbols, but certainly one of the world's most popular eye symbols. It of course comes from Egypt, which in ancient times was known as Kemet. The left Wedget Eye is the lunar eye of Horus, whereas the right solar eye is the Eye of Ra. Both eyes are thought to have protective powers, which is why Wedget Eye amulets were often put inside of mummy wrappings to help the dead in the afterlife. At some point, I decided that instead of focusing on the whole eye aspect of the Mask of Truth, I would instead focus on the truth aspect of the Mask of Truth. I started thinking, is there any masks in Africa that are an embodiment of truth? And then it occurred to me, pretty much any divination mask would count as a mask of truth. And that's because these masks are used to discover truths about the world. Of the divination masks that I'm aware of, I decided to do some sketches based on the Obasanjom mask. The Obasanjom comes from the Ajagum and Banyang of Nigeria and Cameroon. It seemed like a perfect fit because the Obasanjom mask is known as the one who never tells lies. Let's now look at the final sketch and the various color studies that I did. The painting wound up being slightly different than the final sketch, and as you can see, I was struggling to decide on the colors, but ultimately I went with a warmer color palette that was reflective of the Hanif cape. Speaking of which, the final design uses the Amazigh, aka Berbers, Hanif as its base. On top of that, you can of course see the Basari's Lakuta mask as inspiration. And finally, the feathers and bottom tassel is intended as a nod to the Obasanjom mask of the Ijagum and Banyang people. Given the influences of this new Mask of Truth, I suppose we can say that this new mask not only embodies truth, but also protection and transformation. Hope you enjoyed today's episode, my friends. One more thing before we end today's episode. I have a feeling that some Zelda fans may be wondering how I would justify there being 6 golden triangles instead of 3 on this particular mask. So my explanation to you is that it represents both Hyrule's Triforce and Lorule's Triforce. Alrighty, thanks for watching everyone, and have a wonderful day. Oh, and don't forget to comment and subscribe. And press that like button. Or you can smash the like button. Or you can spoodle the like button. What does that even mean? I don't know.